The Cardinals make a last-minute deal to move Dylan Carlson to Tampa Bay in exchange for a reliever. Plus, Tommy Pham makes a grand appearance in his first at-bat back with the team.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily St. Louis Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Cardinals fans. I'm JD Haffern, and I'm a national radio sports anchor, born and raised in the Lou, and a lifetime Cardinals fan, and I'm your host for Locked On Cardinals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. You can follow me on Twitter, X, at JD Sports Radio. You can follow the podcast at LO_Cardinals. I want to thank those of you who make Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. Free and available wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us on YouTube. This is a show serving Cardinal Nation and giving the best fans in baseball all of the info about the birds on the bat. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use the code, all lowercase, LockedOnMLB, for a first deposit match up to $100. First off, what a night. What a night for the Cardinals at Busch Stadium. An 8-1 whooping of the Rangers, capped off by the incredible pinch hit grand slam by Tommy Pham in his first at-bat back with the team. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Grown men were weeping over what we saw at Busch Stadium tonight. We'll talk more about that game a little bit later on, but what a moment. What a freaking moment. Just it reminds you of when the Cardinals were special. The last 2 years, they haven't been special. Last time I felt special as a Cardinal fan was with Yachty and Albert and Waino in that final year together in 2022. This was a special moment. This was pretty cool. So, again, we'll talk more about it a little bit later on. There was a lot of action on the transaction wire on Tuesday in Major League Baseball as teams continue to swap players and money, all searching for that perfect recipe for their franchise so that they can have success in the future. Some of the moves that were meant to improve their current rosters for what's going on in 2024. Others were made to improve their roster, at least hopefully, in the future past this season. Now, the Cardinals made a move at the very end of the trade deadline on Tuesday night, and they were able to come to an agreement on a deal with Tampa Bay that sends outfielder Dylan Carlson to the Rays in exchange for right-handed veteran relief pitcher Shawn Armstrong, thus bringing an end to the Carlson era of baseball in St. Louis, which unfortunately had a lot more downs than it did ups. Dylan Carlson ends his tenure with the Cardinals as a .239 hitter. 34 home runs, 161 RBIs, 11 stolen bases, 700 OPS plus of 95. A below-average hitter. What was once a very promising career for the Cardinals was destroyed by injuries, which cost him so many games. He played 149 in that rookie year in 2021 when he was really, really good. That dropped to 128 the next year, then 76, then 59 this year before Mo finally pulled the plug. And this is not a knock on Dylan. I don't want it to come off like that because you can't control and predict injuries. Nobody can. The guy just could not stay on the field enough to be the guy that we saw in 2021 when he finished third in the Rookie of the Year award voting. And it sucks because you have these hopes that a prospect that you groomed, that you drafted, that you groomed and watched grow for years in your system, and when he finally gets up to the pros, he fails. Not because of effort, not because of attitude, but because of injuries. That's tough. That's a tough pill to swallow. It couldn't have been easy for John Mozeliak and the Cardinals to decide, look, we got to move on. We got to do it. Personally, I never heard anything bad about Dylan Carlson. I never heard him complaining or sulking about anything that was happening with his playing time or where he had to play that day. He tried. He genuinely tried. It just did not work out. It happens to teams with their prospects all the time. And because we focus on the Cardinals, we hammer John Mozeliak and we hammer the player development when guys don't pan out. But just go back and look at first overall picks over the years and look at how many of them go on to do what people expect them to do and how many of them fail miserably. It happens a lot. I genuinely hope that he stays healthy. I hope his career. Dylan Carlson's still 25 years old. This is not some guy who's in the twilight of his career now. He's still 25. But I hope he stays healthy, and I hope he gets the playing time that he needs to be the player that many thought he could be. Nobody's wishing ill will towards Dylan Carlson, but it was just time to move on. Nobody wanted to quit on him. The Cardinals, John Mozeliak, coaching staff, gave him opportunities over and over and over. He couldn't stay healthy. He couldn't stay healthy long enough to put together a string of games to prove that he was a good enough ball player, that he belonged on this team anymore. And there just comes a time when you got to cut your losses and just move on. And that day was Tuesday for the Cardinals. John Mozeliak spoke about this, where, it doesn't make him feel good to have to trade Dylan Carlson, but he pointed out that it's not fair to Dylan anymore. He essentially became a fifth or sixth outfielder in this system. Time to move on. Time to move on and see if there are greener pastures, not only for Dylan, but for the Cardinals as well. Because they got something in return. They were able to get a piece of the puzzle that we've talked about coming into the trade deadline for weeks. What they need? Starting pitcher, a right-handed bat that can hit left-handers in the outfield, and then a relief pitcher. Today, they were able to finally get that final piece of the puzzle, and it's a right-handed relief pitcher who will hopefully be able to take some pressure off of Andrew Kittredge and Ryan Fernandez in the bullpen, Shawn Armstrong. Now, Armstrong's numbers in 2024 are not going to wow you by any means. In fact, they're going to disappoint you, to be honest with you. He's 2-2 with a 5.40 ERA. He's got an ERA plus of 73, which is not good. A whip of 1.607, which is not good. His FIP is under 4, which is good, which is something I'm sure the Cardinals looked at. But when you see those initial numbers, not quite exactly what you were hoping for. Now, also remember that what you're trading to the Tampa Bay Rays essentially is a project for them, because Dylan Carlson's hitting 198 with no home runs, has not looked good in the field, has not looked good at the plate. Not a whole lot of good things about Dylan Carlson right now. They're hoping they can unlock the potential that the Cardinals saw in him many years ago. As far as what Shawn Armstrong offers, it's kind of the same thing for the Cardinals, who are hoping that they can turn back the clock to last year and get the Shawn Armstrong that was pitching for the Rays in 2023. This guy was 1-0 with a 1.38 ERA. He had an ERA plus of 2.99, a whip of 0.904 in, I believe it was 39 games. If you're getting that guy, or even if you get someone that is in between last year and this year, then that's a pretty good asset for this team. Things that I've noticed going through his profile and through his stats at baseballsavant.com, I noticed that the velo is down a tick from last year. Average four-seamer last year was 94.5. This year he's down to 93.2. Was throwing more cutters and sinkers last year. This year, for some reason, whatever it may be, it's a lot more four-seam fastballs. And he's not getting as many people out doing it that way. Hopefully, they can get him back to what he was doing last year that made him so successful. Because when you look at his analytics on Baseball Savant from 2023, it is drenched in red, which is a good thing. So hopefully, that is the guy that the Cardinals are able to unlock for them in their bullpen this year, as opposed to the guy that's been pitching for Tampa Bay for the better part of this season. That's the hope. He's also a free agent at the end of the year, so you're not locked into any sort of financial commitment with him. Same goes with Andrew Kittredge, who was also acquired from the Rays. So, they're hoping they get good things out of Shawn Armstrong and that he can take the burden off of an Andrew Kittredge and Ryan Fernandez. And then you're using him instead of going with a Chris Roycroft or a Kyle Leahy. No offense against them, but if you can upgrade from those spots, obviously you're going to do it. And that's what the Cardinals are hoping for and hoping they've done on Tuesday. All right, coming up next, a lot of moves were made within the organization. We got to talk about what the Cardinals are going to do and how they've moved some things around to try to get everybody to fit on the 40-man and on the 26-man roster. And kind of a surprise start coming up on Wednesday with one of the Cardinals' top 30 prospects who's going to get the ball. So we'll talk about him next on Locked On Cardinals. Order supplies from the website that's made for the skilled trades. Find thousands of parts from hundreds of brands in just a couple clicks at SupplyHouse.com. SupplyHouse.com gives you 24/7 access to a huge selection of plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with fast delivery anywhere in the United States. Need help with an order? You can get industry-leading after-sales service from their friendly and knowledgeable customer service support team, and you get to talk to a real person every time, which is something that I struggle with when I'm looking for help pretty much anywhere. Like anytime I'm calling a company that I got an issue and I need some help, there's always that going through the phone, trying to get to the operator. It's a pain in the butt. That's not the case here. And there's great news for plumbers, technicians, and contractors. Being a pro has its perks. Trade industry professionals can join their free Trade Master program for free shipping and serious discounts on every order. Over 100,000 pros already trust the Trade Master program to deliver results. You can apply for your membership today and get a competitive edge on every order at supplyhouse.com/TM. Save money and time when you order online. Order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? You have to turn down the volume with all that shouting. Then make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. You can find it streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. A reminder, you can catch every pitch of the Cardinals hometown broadcast with SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search the word Cardinals. And thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. Leave your comments on YouTube as well as on Twitter X. Anytime you want, your feedback is always welcome and encouraged. When we're talking about these trades that have gone down with the Cardinals, not everybody loves them. Not everybody hates them. A lot of people are just kind of like in the middle, which is, kind of what you expect from St. Louis Cardinals trades at the trade deadline. None of them are usually wow you type of deals, but at the same time, they are things that the Cardinals needed. They needed the starting pitcher, got it in Eric Fetty. They needed the bat in the outfield that can hit lefties, got that in Tommy Pham. You also got the attitude with Tommy Pham as well. Brings, as we've heard before, the sandpaper to the team. Now you're getting the right-handed relief pitcher who last year was incredible. Hasn't been that way in 2024, but you're hoping that whatever has gone wrong this year, they'll be able to fix it in Shawn Armstrong. So you got the three things that you needed. They might not be the upper echelon names that some people were hoping for, but these are very St. Louis Cardinal moves, and hopefully they will improve this team enough that they will be able to make it into the playoffs. So news and notes from Tuesday. We know the team had to make some moves to accommodate the acquisitions of Tommy Pham and Eric Fetty. Since Tommy Edman was on the IL, not actually on the 40-man roster, the team had to find two spots. Okay, so they did designate Giovanni Gallegos, but they ended up filling that spot with Kyle Leahy. So they were unable to find a trade partner with Giovanni. So the Cardinals are going to pass him through waivers now to see if anybody wants to take on his salary. I'm not betting anybody does. If it doesn't happen, then the Cardinals are likely just to release him and pay the $500,000 buyout on an option and remainder of his $6 million salary. So they're out that money right there. The next move that they made was they designated minor league catcher Nick Raposo for assignment. 26 years old, was hitting .193 with 7 home runs and 28 ribbies in 192 at-bats. That will make room for Tommy Pham, who was on the roster on Tuesday night and played a big part in their victory over the Rangers. We'll get to more of that later. So they're going to have to make another move for Fetty when he arrives. Katie Wu mentioned earlier in the day on Tuesday that the Cardinals are calling up 2021 first-round pick Michael McGreevy, and he's going to get the spot start on Wednesday against Texas. Now, she says that with the team playing 16 straight games, the thought process is that the organization wants to work in an extra rest day for the rotation. A reminder, the Cardinals don't have a lot of kids in the rotation. All these guys are 32 years of age or older. So an extra rest day, not such a bad idea. They're going to do this 6-man rotation one time through and see how everything shakes out after that. This will also require a spot because McGreevy is not currently on the 40-man roster either. So some moves are still going to have to be made. But I want to focus on who and what is Michael McGreevy. Who is this guy that is going to be pitching for the Cardinals on Wednesday as they go for a series win against the Rangers? 6'4", 220-pounder. He's 24 years old, former first-round pick, like I mentioned, out of UC Santa Barbara. But things have not gone great for him in his career thus far, at least not what you would think a first-round pick should be. All right? If he was like a 5th or 6th rounder, you're probably not all that unhappy with what Michael McGreevy's career has been so far. But as a first-round pick, I think it's safe to say that what he's done so far in the minor leagues has been a bit disappointing. In his career, he's 27-20 over 82 starts, got a 4.26 ERA, 343 strikeouts, and 414 in the third innings. His whip's at 1.34. Opponents are hitting 275 against him in his career. This season at AAA Memphis, he's 5-7 with a 4.45 ERA, 96 punchies, and 109 in the third innings. The whip's at 1.34. He did fire 6 shutout innings in his last start on July the 24th, so maybe that's something they can build upon. Currently listed as the number 15 prospect in the Cardinals organization, according to MLB Pipeline. Here's what their synopsis on Michael McGreevy is. They say he's ranked second in Division I with 10.5 Ks, his K to walk ratio during his final spring at UC Santa Barbara. Struck out 15 batters, walked only 11 hitters in 101 2/3 innings. So you can see why the Cardinals were interested in him in the first round. They selected him 18th overall, gave him $2.75 million bonus as a potential quick mover. He did pitch the bulk of his second full season at AAA Memphis with 134 1/3 innings that ranked 11th most at the minors' top level, but overall results weren't stellar. Finished with a 4.49 ERA, 1.47 whip, and an 18% strikeout rate. In some ways, McGreevy feels like a pitcher out of another era. His sinking fastball averaged only 91.5 miles per hour in 2023, but it did help him post a 52.4% ground ball rate, best among AAA qualifiers. However, it, along with a four-seamer around the same velo, rarely missed bats, and that's a tough look in this age when whiffs are king. His best swing and miss and chase rates came on his mid-80s slider, thanks to its nice depth. 78 to 81 mile per hour curveball and upper 80s changeup were below average third and fourth options, and lefties took advantage, slugging .503 with an .887 OPS against McGreevy last season. The 6'4" hurler's control remained as good as ever, even in AAA with the tighter ABS zone, and he'll likely never get in his own way when it comes to walks. Because of that, he can eat innings in bunches. While that's valuable, McGreevy currently lacks the stuff to be more than a number 5 pitcher, and he may end up as a ground-heavy bulk option or up-and-down arm. So, not exactly what I would call a ringing endorsement, but we'll see what happens when he gets on the mound at Busch Stadium on Wednesday when teams don't have a lot of tape against him. Maybe he can give you 3 to 4 innings before, the lineup turns over for a third time, and that's usually when trouble seems to happen for most starting pitchers. So we'll see what happens. Interesting that this is who they decided to go with. Not like a Zach Thompson, who's been on the team already. They're going to go with Michael McGreevy. So anxious to see what he's got to offer. We'll see what he can do. Throwing strikes obviously is key. Something that drives me nuts is walks. So hopefully he won't be too nervous and will get the ball over the plate and not get hammered by a Texas Rangers lineup, which obviously features a lot of very powerful bats. There were a slew of other moves within the organization on Tuesday, including this year's first-round pick, J.J. Wetherholt, got assigned to Class A Palm Beach, recorded his first professional hit on Tuesday night in the game, 107.4 mile-per-hour screamer up the middle. You like to hear that. Went 1 for 2 in the game with a walk and a strikeout. He did start at shortstop, which the Cardinals said that's where they're going to start his career at. Most people project him to be a second baseman at some point, but for now, he's going to be playing shortstop. Last year's first-round pick, Chase Davis, who's starting to put things together a bit, is getting promoted, heading to High A Peoria, was in tonight's game. I believe he knocked in 2 runs, was hitting .232 with 8 home runs and 48 RBIs in 74 games. Down at Palm Beach, but since June 1st, hitting .286 with a weighted runs created plus of 156. 100 is average, in case you're wondering. So obviously things were starting to move in the right direction for Chase Davis after a not great start to his career last year in the minor leagues, where he just had no power, which was odd considering he was such a powerful bat in college. One other notable move was the release of outfielder Moises Gomez. Yes, that same Moises Gomez who just a couple of years ago in 2022 smacked 39 home runs in the Cardinals organization between AA and AAA. Hit 30 more last year, but this year was really, really bad. 194 hitter, 3 home runs, 11 RBIs in 45 games. So the Moises Gomez era is over. How will you remember it? Will you remember him as a guy like I will that the Cardinals had a chance to probably trade at some point when the hype was big and he had popped all those home runs and they never moved him for whatever reason, even though they had all these guys ahead of him in the outfield. And now you're getting nothing for him. So kind of unfortunate. But let's get to tonight's game. Tuesday night's game. We're going to talk about that next because it was a Hollywood script type of moment at Busch Stadium in the game between the Rangers, and I've got some takeaways from it, so we'll talk about Tuesday night's win next on Locked On Cardinals. PrizePicks is America's #1 fantasy sports app. With more than 5 million members, PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. You don't have to face anybody else. You're not worried about competing against other people. You're just going up against the numbers. Pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch your winnings roll in. Get in on the daily action with your friends and become part of the PrizePicks community today. You can get in on the excitement and win up to 100 times your cash with the summer games on PrizePicks. With PrizePicks, you can turn $10 into $1,000 while watching Team USA rack up the gold medals this summer. You can make a PrizePicks lineup of players across basketball, soccer, tennis, golf, and more in as little as 60 seconds. It does not take long. And look at the winnings that you could get. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you're locked in. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on PrizePicks for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy with PrizePicks. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen today. For your second listen, enjoy the Locked On MLB podcast with host Paul Sullivan, a.k.a. Sully, who is here daily to provide national expertise with his trademark humor to help you get ready for the MLB playoffs here in the dog days of summer. A lot of crazy pennant races going on right now, specifically in the wild card chase. It is so tight in the National League, and I'm sure Sully has his opinions and thoughts on how things are going to go. Prepare for the Fall Classic with Sully, who has it all covered every single day on Locked On MLB, available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So Monday night, the Cardinals got beat by the Rangers. 6-3 was not exactly an inspiring performance by the team, although Andre Palante didn't pitch bad. You got the home run for Matt Carpenter, which was cool. Gave them an early lead, but it vanished quickly in the top of the 4th inning, and they never really threatened after that. It has been great recently for the Cardinals, but Tuesday night, was a different story. The trade deadline was done. The moves had been made. Tommy Pham was in the clubhouse. Dylan Carlson is no longer there. And it was back to focusing on baseball, focusing on things going on the field. Don't have to worry about what's happening up in Mo's office anymore. Everything's over. Lance Lynn gets to start against Max Scherzer on Tuesday night, a guy that many of us were hopeful might be a target of the Cardinals at the deadline until Scherzer came out and said, yeah, I'm not waiving my no trade clause. It's not going to happen. I don't want to move again. And the Rangers decided not to sell. They made a couple of deals, but they decided that they're not going to move some of the guys that teams were going to be interested in. Instead, they're going to move forward with their team and are hopeful that they can make a push for a playoff spot. First pitch of the game on Tuesday night against Max Scherzer. Pretty good one for the Cardinals. Ripped into the visitors' bullpen in left field by shortstop Mason Wynn. Not something that has been done all that often at Busch Stadium 3, where the very first pitch of the game is hit for a home run by the leadoff hitter for the Cardinals. So it kind of set the tone, gave the Cardinals a 1-0 lead. Now, that didn't last long because Wyatt Langford ends up hitting a towering fly ball over the left field wall and to tie things up against Lance Lynn in the next inning. But the Cardinals are able to bounce right back. The grizzled veterans, Matt Carpenter and Brandon Crawford, end up hitting back-to-back doubles in the second. Carpenter's was a little blooper down the left field line. Crawford's legit one into right field. Lars Nootbaar added an RBI double in the third, scoring Alec Burleson, who was on base a few times in this one as well. In the fifth inning, then the Cardinals got a leadoff bunt single by Michael Ciani. My guy starts things off. He then steals second base, something I'm really hoping that the Cardinals start doing more. They need to start putting more pressure on the batteries for other teams. They just do. And I realize that you got to get guys on base that can steal bases to put that pressure on. But hopefully with Ciani getting the job in center field, they've moved Carlson, they've moved Edman, doesn't have to worry about anybody anymore. Ciani is your guy. Hopefully that gives him a boost of confidence and he can start running more. I would love to see Mason Wynn running a little bit more. But Michael Ciani ends up stealing second base, gets over to third on a ground ball by Mason Wynn, and then his scores on an RBI single by Alec Burleson, your guy, with the infield pulled in. That makes it 4-1. So get him on, get him over, get him in. Simple baseball. Simple stuff right there. Then things got really interesting. Contreras singles to make it first and second with one out. New goes down on strikes, which we really need. I know we got the RBI double earlier in the game, but I mentioned this earlier on Twitter X that Lars Nootbaar really needs to not only stay healthy, obviously that's a big part of it all, but he needs to step up. Okay. For a couple of years now, we've said Lars Nootbaar can be this guy and the analytics are great. And it hasn't happened. It really hasn't. And it's kind of, it bugs me a little bit that I feel like he's kind of on that Dylan Carlson trajectory. He's a guy that he wasn't a top prospect like Dylan Carlson was when he got drafted, but he's been a guy that's moved up through the system that the Cardinals have had a lot of faith in. But the biggest thing that he's done so far is the World Baseball Classic, leading off for Team Japan and winning that with Shohei, like with all those guys, Ohtani and Yamamoto and all, this amazing team that Team Japan had. That's like been his biggest thing. The injuries continue to be a problem, and I just need him to come through more. I need him to be more clutch. We love Lars Nootbaar. We love his attitude. We love his energy, and hopefully he can stay healthy and things will go better for him. But that's kind of what happened to Dylan Carlson. You remember? He'd be productive, and then he would get hurt. And then he'd have to start all over again. And that's kind of been what Lars Nootbaar's been going through as well. So I hope it doesn't end up the same way that things have gone for Dylan Carlson, and who's no longer with the organization now. But anyway, back to it. Contreras singles to make it first and second, one out. Newt goes down on strikes. Goldie walks, loads up for the Matt Carpenter spot in the lineup. But instead of Matt Carpenter coming out of that dugout, it is Tommy Pham, because the Rangers have a left-hander on the mound. Tommy gets the standing ovation from the crowd, which was great. 2-2 count. Tommy Pham against the lefty. What does he do? Smashes a changeup that was up in the zone, and he hits a line shot into right center field. At first, off the bat, I did not think that was going to be a ball that goes over the wall. I thought it was going to be probably a bases clearing double, but it keeps going and going. Clears the wall in right field. Pinch hit, grand slam in his first at bat back in a Cardinals uniform. Just absolutely wild. Unbelievable stuff. And this is why they traded for him. He has a flair for the dramatics, has done very, very well in postseason play with many teams, and he can mash left-handed pitching. He described the moment afterwards as his best moment here, talking about St. Louis, and one of the top moments of his career. It was magical. Talked about having goosebumps, had the butterflies, I think is what he said. I shouldn't say goosebumps. Butterflies is what he said. Had butterflies coming up to the plate, Said the fans are what makes this place special. And he hits the home run. You had Newt and Siani losing their minds in celebration. Energy you do not see all that often from this Cardinals team, which I am so happy we got to see tonight. Paul Goldschmidt, who does not react to anything. His 2000th hit was a home run, and he just kind of shrugged it off. Is in the dugout roaring with his approval for what he just saw from Tommy Pham during Pham's curtain call. Yelling out loud, huge smile on his face. Ollie with a massive smile on his face. Matt Carpenter, ear-to-ear grin. It was exactly what this team needed, and hopefully we will see a whole lot more of it in the near future. These are the kinds of moments that make Cardinal baseball special, and we just have not had a lot of them in the last 2 years. And it's incredible that in his first at bat back with the team, something special happens. Again, I haven't felt a special moment like this really since the Albert Pujols run for 700 in 2022. There's been some cool moments, little walk-off home runs by like Nolan Gorman and some other guys, but this was different. This was different. And you could tell with the reactions from the players that it felt different to them too. Very, very cool. And I hope we get to see more moments like this and see them not only from Tommy Pham, but also from Eric Fetty, who they announced will make his Cardinal debut on Friday against the Chicago Cubs when they're in town. So just cool stuff. Great stuff. Enjoyed it thoroughly. Awesome. Got a chance to win the series on Wednesday. It's a day game, 1:15 start, St. Louis time. Michael McGreevy, former first-round pick, will get the bump. Will get the ball on the bump, I should say, against left-hander Andrew Heaney, who is 4-10 on the year for the Rangers. He has not been very good. He is left-handed, which means Tommy Pham will be in the lineup, barring any sort of catastrophic thing leading up to the game. He'll be in the lineup for the St. Louis Cardinals on Wednesday. I'm looking forward to watching it. I hope you do too. I want to thank you for making Locked on Cardinals your first listen every day. If you haven't already, give us a follow on Twitter, X, at @LO_Cardinals and at JD Sports Radio. Please like and subscribe on YouTube. Help our channel and love for the Cardinals grow. You guys are the best fans in baseball for a reason, and I will see you next time on Locked on Cardinals.